Right. This is a Community Preservation Committee meeting on Monday, February 12th, 2024. And why don't we introduce ourselves? My name is Ann Mazar, and I'm the chair, and I represent the Land Use Committee.
Mike Goddard, Select Board.
Bill Sipley, Council of Aging.
Diane Howell, Council of Aging.
Dan Byer, Parks Commission.
Peter Denton, Housing Authority.
Barry,
Barry Adirola, Planning Board.
Mike,
Mike Amandalea, Conservation Commission.
and Kathy.
Kathy Schofield, Historical Commission.
Great. So did you get a chance to look at the December 11th minutes?
Yes.
Someone want to make a motion to approve them?
I
So
move
moved.
to approve. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mike. So moved.
I was gonna,
So what did Mike?
no, I was about to say, I'll move to approve them.
Right, I think Mike Mendelia
Nice.
made a motion. And then Kathy seconded that.
No, I did not make that motion. Dan Byer did.
Oh, Dan Byer. All right. Okay.
I'll second the motion.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. All right. And I guess we should probably do like a roll, like go around and vote. So starting with Mike,
Goddard, aye.
Dan, Peter.
Abstained, I wasn't here.
Okay. Mike Mendelia,
Abstain.
Barry,
Abstain.
Kathy.
Aye.
Right, sorry, so me. So it's Ann, Mike, Dan, and then Kathy?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Minutes approved. Why don't we first talk about the senior center, since we have two guests here on that topic, and it's a potential annual town meeting warrant item. And so, Bill, would you like me to put up?
Sure, if we could just step through the slides. I'll try to go through it quickly, not to
Okay.
do up too much of the meeting. As you may all be aware that we're attempting to build a new senior center. It's a project that's been ongoing for years and years. This is the third attempt, I believe.
Okay, wait 1 second. I gotta find it.
What I wanted to bring to the committee here is some potential need for recreational and trail walking activities centered around a new location.
There it is.
But to do that, I wanted to give you a brief overview where we're at. We've gone through site studies, we've gone through building designs, we've gone through requirements. We're in the preliminary phase. It's going to the town meeting in May with a warrant to look for the funds to build this facility. The location is on North Avenue, Route 16, and it's a senior and community center combined building. We can go to the next one. Just to give you history, we've gone through variations of this since 2019. We had a plan that looked at 14,000 square feet. That one got hung up on cost and price. And the next one was a pro bono kind of we'll try to make it smaller for you, approach by another architect. That got hung up in the pandemic. And then we finally said, if we really need to do this, let's really be serious about this. So we started an effort last May. We're now going into 24 for a building that's gross square footage of 13,400 square feet. And the site was selected, North Avenue being the best out of 4. We looked at Morrissey, we looked at the current location, and we looked at Hopedale Street and North Ave. Next one, please. Again, that's a picture of the building. It's built in a style that's familiar with this town. It has a house with a barn type of approach on the back. I think it matches to some of the architecture in the area. Our designer rode around, we gave him some suggestions, and he came up with this rendition on his third or fourth go around. Next, please. The top left corner, you'll see a side view of the main front building, and then the back side, we're building it 2 stories in the back, not building it wide, we're building it up and down to limit the cost of the building. The next one over is the front of the building on the top row on the right. The one on the bottom left is showing the back of the building, which would be facing, overlooking down Route 16 and overlooking the hills towards Milford. And the backside view, the other side view shows the other area. The building's full of light, windows, and again, I think it's built into attractive style for the area. Next, please. Location wise, if you know where the stone wall is on the area across from Clough parking lot, that's 20 some acres. And we're proposing to use 2+ acres of the area. And the rest can be used for the town. We've had engineering work done on it, looking at the possibility of ledge. We have soil samples being tested for any chemicals because we do know it's an orchard. Was an orchard in the past. We're looking for any pesticides or chemical situations. And the area right close to Route 16, I believe, is conservation land. And the top corner lot is owned by, I think, Meehan. But we'd enter across from Cuff Street parking lot. Next one, please. To give you an area of the footprint of the building and the parking associated with it, along with an outdoor garage in the back for the van. That would be the general layout of the plan. We're coming to this board to talk about recreational facilities, which we'd locate on that footprint there. I don't want to expand any further down the land. And also the trails, and I'm not sure, maybe if you go to the next slide, where the trail, oops. I'm missing a slide. Oh, the one back, I'm sorry. That one, thank you. I'm not sure where you'd connect with trails or where that would lie to that property. Because I know you've talked about different trails.
Yeah, I would go probably from the senior center and then to the conservation land and then north.
Okay, so you'd be going down the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, it could come to the front also and then down.
The only reason I ask is that land could be used for other purposes for the town,
Mhm.
the remaining acres, because there's good
Mhm.
parcel down there.
Yeah, trail wouldn't take that much space and we could around, a trail could be worked around anything that would be
Okay, so that's something we'd want to make sure we coordinate. Okay,
definitely.
thank you. The next slide, 2 down, I guess. That one just gives you an idea of the square footage per the various facilities within the center. There'll be a use case diagram built out for the town hall and before that, but that gives you an idea if you're interested. So finally, we get to the point why we're here. The next slide. Oh, that's square plate. That's the footprint. I'm not going to go through it, but that's the real reason we're here is for the seniors. Diane's with me. Diane heads up the walking group at the senior center. And lo and to my surprise, after getting involved with this group, they walk in Hopedale, they walk in Blackstone, they walk in Milford. They do not walk in Milford. There's no strong ADA accessible walking trails within this town. And I think that's unfortunate, not only for the seniors, but also for people who have handicap. And I know in the master plan, we have ADA accessibility as one of the key charters. So I'm asking this group to consider moving forward, walking trails if you look at Bellingham, they have little benches in the area. When you're thinking about senior centers, there may be benches areas for rest areas for water breaks. The trails would not just be natural dirt. They probably would have to be some substantive gravel, something that would be flat so you could push a wheelchair on. I think also in the area, many people tell me there's a lot of, I've been in town for 40 years. I remember the old building there. Signage to talk about historical purposes up in that area around these trails might be interesting. I've heard anything from, we could see George Washington could watch the troops coming out of Boston. That's a joke, I think. Or that they had some encampments and troops up there. So there might be other historical values that we may want to put there.
Just to kind of clarify, historical signs, you can't use CPA funds for historical signs.
Maybe we do a fundraiser.
Yeah, I mean, but
But I think that I'm looking at the areas, a possibility to make it more than just a dirt path through the woods and a building. I think we have an opportunity in the center of town there to make this something special for the town. And I think signage, we'll figure out a way to do a fundraiser if we need to collectively with the historical group.
Also the benches.
The benches, I think.
We'd need that. I know I went a couple of years ago, I had been ill and I'm the youngest one out of the walking group, but I would have to sit and rest and they would all just sit and rest with me. And then we get up again and then go along and then I've got to sit down and rest again and everybody would just sit down, but it's over in Hopedale, they have benches all through there. Milford has all benches around.
Bellingham.
About Bellingham. Over in Uxbridge where we walk at Riverbend, they have benches and areas just so that while you're out, you can sit down and rest.
Okay.
The areas that we do walk, it's a good a mile out and a mile back and again, so we get 2 miles in time. Could do more if you feel up to it and everything and stuff, but for the most part, we try and do 2 miles and we go out 3 days a week.
I mean, that's if you look at that activity for the elder community, that's crucially important for their health and safety and well-being.
Mhm.
Not only the socialization aspect, the gathering, but the exercise.
we've been wanting to do an ADA path somewhere in the right location and we were thinking old senior center, but so this is like perfect. And I think that if we write a grant in the fall, maybe we can use CPA administrative funds to have an engineer help map it out, you know, especially the ADA, and then we could come to town meeting with, you know, this is how much it
On the
would
fall
cost. Yeah.
The interesting thing, I put a number up there on that, it was $400,000. I've got it as a placeholder. I took that from Northbridge's proposal, and I think the next 2 pages are the 2 summary, next pages, 2 pages are the summary of Northbridge's proposal. They just completed an ADA trail at their senior center. And that looks like the state form, pretty much like you showed me to use the form template and maybe a little different than ours. But it hits all the highlights. And the examples they have there, I think, are excellent about why this is important. They have studies from other medical communities. They have population based. And our population, by the way, is 28% are senior centers, senior citizens. That's a significant number of people that all the departments need to support. So that is some information. I sent you the complete Northbridge CPA fund request as a template that we could use to see if it was valid for our purposes. I didn't validate their costs, but they had an architect consultant build that proposal. And so I think those costs, that's where I got that money from.
Well, I think like when you get to the point of the pickleball, bocce, shuffleboard, you'll need to have somebody come in and say, this is how much it will cost, and then come back to the
Okay,
committee.
we can do that. I took what I have for the pickleball, bocce and shuffleboard. I went to a couple industry sites and people who build these things in the Northeast and took their high-end and mid-range specs for what it would cost to do these things. These aren't just pulled out of the air. They actually have diagrams of what the composite material for easy maintenance, easy use and upkeep. And these are the costs that they had. I know in the past we've had homegrown built boards, but they fall apart. Or we don't use the right materials. So I think if we're going to do this, I would ask my other second ask, not only the trail ask, would be the facilities, the recreational activities that would be used for the whole town, by the way. This is not just for the senior center. Those courts would be there available. Bocce and shuffleboard would be available. This being a community center as well as seniors, I can see activities on the weekends being conducted at the facilities for a nominal fee for a birthday for a town or for a baptism or for a christening or a baptism. But, you know, and we can arrange this. This is a full community center.
Can I just comment on the courts? My suggestion would be to ask whoever's doing your cost estimates, have them prepare the cost to construct those as part of the whole project.
Mhm.
And whatever that amount is would then be that small portion of the project could potentially be funded by CPA.
Okay.
But then you've got a professional thing, they've designed it, you don't have to deal with anything, it's all part of your project.
I could put that in there. My only concern is when I go to town, I need to make sure that we isolate the funding.
You as an alternate, like,
Because
Yeah.
if we don't get the funding for that,
right, you don't wanna,
because we're gonna have to ask the townspeople for money at the end of the day. You don't build these things without override.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be any different than what we need to do with some of the things Lonnie's pursuing in terms of specific targeted grants or earmarks at the
Earmarks.
state level
Yeah.
to do certain pieces of the
True.
construction. So it's very similar to that approach that Dan's saying. So
I guess I would need this committee's backing that you would aggressively go after supporting these things to offset it with CPA or offset it with however you offset these.
I would say from parks, and I can bring this up at our next meeting, or we can find a meeting coming up and have, run that plan by them and get the commission's blessing.
I guess I'm looking for the blessing from the two committees that if I run with this in my warrant, that I have strong support from the committees
Mhm.
that are gonna run with it also.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ticks a lot about, we looked at doing pickleball courts and we're still doing something at the park, but the court at Clough needs a bunch of work. So it might make more sense to invest that money into something new that's separate from the school that, I think absolutely that, that's just what we came up in the master plan and the open space and rec plan about these, it's not just a baseball field, it's a shuffleball, it's something else. So it's more, I guess, diverse options for people.
Yeah. Does anyone online want to say anything? Oh, Kathy.
Hi, Phil.
Hi,
Um,
Kathy.
How are you? I wondered about the grade and the walking trails. The elevation changes quite dramatically in and around that area. And I know most of these walking trails are flat. Have you looked at what kind of options you can provide in order to, make a viable walk? By the way, I think it's a great idea. Everything is just, you guys have worked very hard and, but I'm wondering if the grade is going to be difficult for seniors.
I
Yeah, I mean-
think for ADA, you're gonna have to be no more than 5%. So that's part of why you'd have to have that engineered if that's the
Right.
direction you go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It would have to almost be a crossing.
Yeah, I think,
Sideways.
I mean, similar to what they did out here, I think you'd find where you have multiple trails and one of them is fully compliant and then there might be other trails that aren't.
Mhm.
Who knows? You're gonna have somebody look at this property.
Yeah.
I mean, and if we're gonna write a grant,
Yeah,
That's
your,
part of
your
that, too.
point, Kathy, the grade is significant coming down for the Dunville.
Mhm.
Up by the
Yeah.
building, we'll be grading it to get the building in.
Yeah.
Lot.
No, just,
Yeah.
it's just, just a thought, how do you make a trail that's very usable, for seniors and deal with that grade? I think we have that problem everywhere in town.
Yeah.
so.
Kind of chuckling at this because my little group of seniors, there's 6 of us right now, and yeah, we can handle the hills and over in Hopedale, then the far side of the pond, there was a really steep one area coming down. That one was difficult, but the way we walk on it, you may go up and down some hills, but it's not anything that we can't handle.
Mhm.
So, and then the other thing I wanted to comment on is the bocce, is that we do have a bocce court up at the center now. It was being used, and believe it or not, it was being used by Hopedale. They were coming over and using our bocce court.
Mm.
And which was great, but then COVID came along and that kind of just
different.
stopped. But I think that would be something that it would be good for, like, getting an adult team out there and have multiple teams.
Multiple
even.
teams, towns, cross towns would be kind of fun. Yeah.
So that would be good.
I mean, I think all these items fit in perfectly with recreation, the recreation part of CPA. And I think pretty much everyone is kind of in support of it. Is that is that the general impression? Is there any opposition?
not for me.
Yeah, so, I mean,
No, I think it's an opportunity to leverage existing funds to try and expand this project.
Yeah, I'm fine with presenting it.
I think
as
it
long
makes
as
a
we
lot of
have
sense.
supporting the other committees. I don't want to make a bigger tab and then have it all engineered out and then start slicing and dicing and
mhm.
setting
On
expectations.
the floor.
I think it's helpful to have different funding sources also for a project, so,
Of course.
CPA's putting into it. It's,
Okay,
I
excellent.
think it'd be helpful.
And I did send you, you can share the North Bridge handicap accessible senior trail.
Okay, I'll send that in an email then.
Send out, you can share any of this,
Okay, thank
but
you.
that gives, it looks like they did a good job working that proposal and doing the consulting and designing. So it gives us an idea, a window, what it might cost us to do something similar. I think that's probably all I had. Just the last slide, if you want to go there. This shows the cost of doing things in the area, comparables. This is comps, if you will. Upton completed a library and senior center most recently, and the cost of that was $12.4 million. Long Meadow was 14 million. Wilbraham was 13 million, and Chatham was 10. And a lot of it each year we defer this is at least 5% additional increase in cost. So we've spent millions of dollars just thinking about it already. Okay,
Great, well, thank you very much for
Okay.
coming in and, maybe, I don't know if at our next meeting in a month, if you'd have numbers or, if
Now-
you do, let us know.
now what I can have, well, I'll have numbers for our building because it's in our range. How do you propose, is there any funds within these committees to give? I can have my guy look at, he's not a trail person, my designer.
Well, the trail, though, I think we'll wait till the fall. So I mean,
I can add the bocce court and recreation to our current footprint.
yeah, the courts and things.
I would think
I
anything
think-
that's adjacent to the building that's gonna involve site work, you don't want to be coming back and doing it when everything's
Yeah.
finished. Versus the
Trail-
trails are 100 feet on the other side of the
I will-
woodland.
Kind of accessory.
I'll ask our architect to add that to the current foot on that side and on the trails. And if I can, get this committee's, if you come back to me in a month and say the committee will aggressively work to get a trail plan together by the November timeframe, I'd be happy to present the whole picture.
I got a quick question. This is just a functional question.
Hmm.
Can you create an ADA compliant walking trail without paving?
Yes.
I've seen it done, I've heard of it done in a couple other places. Without paving, there's a gravel composite they've used where you can use wheelchairs.
That's what I mean. I was wondering about the wheelchairs getting around.
It's like
Or
the,
rollerblades
like,
or skateboards or.
it's kind of like a stone based kind
Yeah,
of,
stone dust or something,
Yes.
they pack it down.
Just wondered.
you can, that's one way. And another way to do is put surface, it's like the wood. A wood ramping, it's actually like a wood walkway, which is much more expensive than the dust.
Also, that would need more maintenance, right?
Well, if it is all paved, but then again, in the winter time, we don't walk in the winter anyway, it gets a little bit too cold, but they don't clear these trails. So even though Milford's paved, it's not plowed or cleaned off at all, so they use it for skiing,
Cross-country skiing, yeah.
Skiing, yeah.
Skiing, and things like that. And the same thing, I think, with Hopedale. That's not paved, but it is. You have it. I've seen wheelchairs going down there, walkers, strollers, the whole bit. So they do go through there. They do work on it because that's where they do a lot of the cross-country for the high school. It's running through there. So it has to be kind of level and cleared and everything. But
I know you can use the stone gravel.
There's a
Yes, go ahead.
question out there.
Who had-
Whoever the
Kathy.
guest is asked a
Oh,
question.
is that
in the
Tisha?
chat room.
No, Kathy,
Kathy, you
Yeah,
have a
no.
question?
Grab Tisha first.
I didn't even see.
I think TL's Tisha Low.
I think she put a question on the chat.
Oh.
Hang on, I'll look.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Sorry, I came in a few minutes late. Where is the location for the project? This is the proposed new senior center at the corner of North Ave and Route 16.
Mhm.
I'd like to thank everybody for letting me spend a few minutes with you.
I just found my microphone.
Okay.
Is that where the Lowell building is?
It's currently, you might know it as the Fino property. It's basically the vacant field across from Clough.
Oh, thank you. All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and they have it tucked in the corner, sort of, the building. Kathy, did you have a question?
Yeah, I didn't have a question. I was just gonna, suggest that, maybe on the trails, and I've seen this done in Newton, and I believe we did it at the town hall, the permeable surface, which is really great because, you know, it will melt faster. If there is snow on it, you don't really have to maintain it. It's pretty good. And, it might be something to look into for walking trails.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
If we were to do something at the senior center similar to this campus, is that in the what Kathy was talking about, is that can be funded through CPA? Like the
Well, an 88 trail.
not the 88 trail, I'm talking about parking now.
No, I think we have to pay
Parking,
for,
no.
we can create recreation, but we can't create a parking lot for a new building.
No. Yeah.
So, okay.
If
So-
this wasn't CPA funds, I mean,
Okay.
the 88 path was CPA because we were getting into historical buildings, but this was funded by the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Project. Yeah.
The question, just another question on parking though. Some of the comments I've heard from just general citizens, my daughter and there being one. If you go to the trails, the walking trails, and I think it was one off of the road that goes down to North Bridge, somewhere around there. There's not enough parking spaces to be able to use the trails.
It's the one down off Melville Street. That's the one that I was mentioned to you, that the parking lot, I know where the parking lot is, but it's very small.
I mean, it holds probably 15 cars. So, I mean,
I guess, I always thought that
Unless we're looking at different sites.
I think
because that-
the accessibility, I guess I include.
You know, you could justify 5 of those parking spaces are for the trails and maybe CPA could pay for those 5, but you'd have to account for that if that's where you're going with it.
That's where I'm headed. That's my thought. That's my thought and question, because
It's tricky.
because that's, I think you're looking at, where do you park it? Because it's not for the building, the building would take care of our parking.
Like if you you know, the building's here and the trailhead is here,
Mhm.
maybe you need a handicap space there. That would be allowed. Like a separate ADA spaces at the trailhead that are on the other
That's
side of
true,
the property.
yeah.
So that could be something that could come into
Right.
this.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So help offset the problem we have with Clough up there.
Can I ask a question just so about the trails? Like, what would be the process? Do we need to like set aside money to fund like the grant application of the grant? Could be something that could come into this.
Right.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So help offset the problem we have with Clough up there.
Can I ask a question just so about the trails? Like, what would be the process? Do we need to like set aside money to fund like the grant application of the grant in terms of like engineering, or have we not even?
I think that to do the trails, we would ask for CPA administrative funds to hire an engineer to help us with how it would coordinate with the senior center plan.
Because maybe if it would help show support too, maybe that could be an article in the spring to set aside some regular CPA funds for the design work going towards this grant that would then come back in the fall.
Mhm.
If we think, I don't know, I mean, I don't know how much is involved. I haven't looked at that grant process,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
but I imagine eventually it's gonna, especially if we want them to be ADA compliant, they're gonna need some engineering.
Also, make a suggestion, and that would be, come spring when we start up the walking group again for the summertime, is that you all come with us and walk through these trails that we walk so that you can see what they are like. like over in Hopedale, over in Uxbridge. Milford's just paved, so that's really.
Mm.
And they're putting in a whole new, pool complex over there, but, we come out to, Louisa Lake and then walk along that too, and again, that's all paved. But I mean, especially Hopedale or Uxbridge, where you would see that these are just real trails and how they're
Mhm.
kept and things like that, and what the terrain is like and things.
Yeah, I've been on those trails. And I mean, I think with the ADA, like some of it, the trail would probably be like ADA compliant, but then like you said, some of it might have more of a slope, but most of you could walk on it anyways, so it'd probably be some combination.
I think there is some form of comment. I just think we just need to consider that. That's all. We talked about this. And I like your idea though, Dan, about, getting some funds for this.
I mean, I don't know how, if we're serious about moving it forward, I don't know how involved it is and,
In terms of the trail.
In terms of the trails and-
Sure.
whether this is just looking at this or whether we're looking at the massive future connections on the Vandersloot property and to the parklands. I mean, potentially could write, it
Yeah, I
might be
think-
worth engineering it all now and only
That-
and building it in phases.
Yeah, I think that it would be like for all the trails, but
Uh-huh.
the ADA would be near the senior center.
Right, and then, perhaps some of these trails could be done in the future by scouts or somebody. The ones that are, if you figured out how to design the whole thing
I
in
like the
phases.
bumpy part.
Huh?
The bumpy part one day.
Yeah. Well, like, so you build a portion of it because, what we're potentially could do here would be ginormous.
Yeah.
I don't know if necessarily we're looking to pave an ADA trail that goes all the way through, miles and miles,
I don't think
I
we
think-
should ask it.
Yeah.
but at least figure it
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
I
yeah.
really don't know.
I don't think the grant comes out till the fall,
Mm.
so that's why it's a little hard to figure out. I mean, we could look at
Let me-
past years and, I can look into it though.
What are we trying to figure out?
Just the process. Some of these grants, they want you to have plans to even apply for it
Yeah.
versus just saying, I want to do a trail and,
Right,
so
but I'm just
we could do
going
the
back
prep
to the
now.
idea of a placeholder article for May to focus on engineering costs, if you will,
Mhm.
towards a plan. Regardless of whether or not the grant requires the plan or not, you still want to create the plan, right?
Boy, you still need to engineer it.
Right. So I guess to Dan's point, I'm going back to, do we want an article on the warrant?
So it would be sort of the pickleball, bocce, shuffleboard, and then possibly the engineering for the trail.
I think we'd have to approve the recreation in this committee, right? And I guess would you have a separate article, even though he's presenting a holistic senior community center? But then you'd be a separate article
Yeah.
for that portion of it, even
Yeah.
if he's called it out.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so at least one, and then maybe two, because if you're doing something in the fall, you'd want your engineering done you'd want the plans done before the fall, right? Probably.
And I'd suggest,
Yeah.
based on our experiences, that we should plan on 6 months of process for an engineer to complete their work based on how things are going out there. So if we need plans by, September 1st, we better start in June.
I think the deadline's more like at the end of fall, beginning of the next year, but
Because it seems like these engineers are way, way backed up.
mm,
We learned it with the affordable housing stuff.
But if nothing else, you still get the money banked, appropriated
And then
for
you
whenever
start.
we can get to it.
mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I'll look into
Okay.
what the cost of the engineering might be to have someone look at it and,
That'd be great.
and then,
Do you have the name of the engineer who worked on Northbridge?
We're gonna be really careful how we sequence these articles. A lot
right,
of moving parts.
yeah.
That's good.
I think my position from Parks is, regardless of the senior project, I think we should move forward with the accessible trail somewhere. So I think
Yep.
this should absolutely move forward.
So in terms of the different courts that you're looking into, how will we get an estimate, on
I'm
that?
gonna ask my, the architect to do that.
Okay, all right,
Yes, I would like to have a Sedgwick associate just add that to this. Have a little bit of design money left, if they're starting for it, if we gotta go out and get somebody for $1,000, I have enough design money left.
All right.
Is
Right.
All right, so
anybody
maybe
hear
you
me?
can come back.
Can you hear
next
me?
meeting. Oh, yes, we can hear you.
I think, starting with a conceptual design, showing the maximum, what we'd really like to see, and then you break that up into different projects, sort of like a bite-sized pieces. But if you promote the whole thing, the whole project, talking about the trails, and then you can break it up and see what's cost effective to do a half a mile, a quarter mile, 2,000 feet. And you just keep picking away at it, but you have a master plan, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a conceptual plan would be fairly inexpensive.
Okay. Well, I'll look into the trail aspect and
I'll
what we
look
might be
into
able
the
to do.
recreational costs
Okay,
to put that in for our next meeting here.
yeah,
I think if it helps, I think these numbers you got are fairly
I think
decent,
they're cool. I,
the recreation portion of
I'll
it.
have somebody do a stamp on it, make sure it fits, and because there is a lot of site work that needs to be done.
Yeah, like these will have to be away from your utilities and your, wherever all that's going.
Between Mead and Mike Mead and Mike Petroville.
okay. All right, well, thank you for
Thank you,
coming
everybody.
and we'll see you next month.
See you next month.
You, I think there might be other ATM warrant articles to consider in this discussion tonight, but
Yep.
in the end, will you get placeholders to Laura?
Yes, definitely,
Okay.
yeah. All
Any
right,
other topics I need to be here for?
And I sent you the link to the trails website
I
on
think
the
it's
town.
great.
They've got all the town
I-
trails, so then you can take a look and
You mind?
Welcome.
see what you think about them.
It's open meeting.
all right, so,
Can't kick you out, though.
Yeah.
But again, it's. Sorry.
All right. why don't,
There's probably limited parking. there
Yeah.
as well.
all right, so,
Just hang out.
Oh, I'm gonna go home then. Night.
bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks,
thank
Dan.
you.
The next item is the disc golf consultation report and, Ellen could not be here tonight. She can come to the next meeting. Dan, did you want to go over that?
Yeah, do you want to share this so you put it up? So, yeah, Ellen found this gentleman that went and looked at the 3 properties and analyzed them and kind of put together an assessment. So hopefully, and that was sent out as well. I don't know if we want to go through them all. He kind of made recommendations.
You can give the overview.
Let me just skim through this. So I think, yeah, so that the first option was the town forest. And I think that the concerns over here, it does have parking. There's a lot of other activities going on. There's a lot of elevation changes. There's very challenging terrain and access, and there's not a lot of room on top of the existing trail structure. So that was the lowest scoring property. Inman Hill also had parking. Parking lot does need some work. There is activities up there, but there's a lot of space. It's fairly flat. There are some invasive species that are going to need to be dealt with, and there's a lot of space for future expansion. So that one, they scored 11. And then the so-called paddock property off Providence Street, there was some concern over the exact location, but there is no other activities on the property. It's also fairly flat. It's fairly clean forest. There is some undergrowth that's going to have to be dealt with for expansion. And again, there's a lot of space. There's a lot of space here for something fairly good sized. So that one, they scored a 12. So
Probably parking in that area too,
I think
which they probably didn't realize.
yeah, the potential unknown with the Providence Street property is whatever may or may not happen. I know there's a potential grant opportunity looking at affordable housing. Nothing crazy, but I think maybe doing a couple units instead of just renovating the house.
Yeah,
So
I mean, that won't be more than like
Right.
the 5 acres up front or something like that.
But
most likely.
the advantage to that is that could involve some sort of access road and might open up better access than coming off the fire station property.
Mhm.
So there, it's like a negative and a positive.
I was just curious about, the future course expansion commentary. That just something they do, or is somebody actually talking about going beyond the initial?
Yeah, let me find the other thing Ellen sent me
I think that
about,
what they'll be requesting is 9 holes. And
Here it
then
is.
see how that goes. And then the expansion would be if,
full
you want
18.
to move it to 18 holes at a future time. So that's the future expansion.
yeah, so she got 2 quotes for a 9-hole and an 18-hole course. Let me find the numbers on those.
Highlighted areas that I see there for a 9-hole course on those.
Right.
So the full, is this the right one? The 18-hole course, they're estimating 25,000, and the 9-hole course, hang on, that one is 17,000, and I think that's just all the materials and installation, and then you'd still have to do site work, which I think like 20,000 was the number she was getting. What's in this email? So I don't know,
What was the amount for the equipment and everything? Did you say?
hang on, I didn't fully read through these. Let me just, so the full 18-hole course, the quote is $24,950. It is 25,000. And then the 9-hole option is 17,000. And then in this email, a big minimum of 2,000 an acre for clearing. 10 to 16,000 for, he's estimating potentially, yeah. Back of the napkin number to start with would be 20,000 to build it right.
For the 18 or the 9?
I think that's the labor.
For the 8 or the 9?
I think he was probably the full 18. Again, I think it's hard to iron out the numbers till we have more exact details. And I do think that's the takeaway from the last town meeting, that if this moves forward, it needs to be a much more fleshed out proposal of whatever it's going to be.
Mhm.
I think that spooked people. I mean,
So, in this report, it appears that the Inman Hill or Paddock would be the better sites.
yeah, I think town forest does not make sense. It's just, there's too much else going on. I mean, he says, the parking is ideal. There's so many other established trails and bikings. Building a disc golf course with consideration of these trails would be a challenge. The conditions, along with no access trails for equipment, make it the most challenging for construction out of the 3 properties. NEDGC does not recommend this property.
Fuzzy recommendation either. I thought this was the only one they kind of said.
Paddock is rated higher, and actually it would be higher if they realized that there was parking,
Mhm.
because you have parking at the 8 Morrison Drive. And if the affordable housing goes in there, that might be an option also.
Just trying to see why.
You gotta be careful with assuming that 8 Morrison Drive is good for parking. I don't think you want a lot of traffic going in and out of the fire.
Well, I know Ellen has had some conversations with Chief Bangma, and they've kind of turned that area into like a training ground, which is awesome. But
Right.
then again, it's challenging. I know, like, I have to be careful with parks on Thursday nights to not, get out of the way because they got stuff going on.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, Inman Hill, like Diane was kind of hinting at this earlier. Inman Hill is like in the middle of nowhere. It's up some mountain road with potholes, and the parking lot's a giant mud pit. So it's not really much better.
So it seems that the Paddock property might be the best location then. Is that Any comments?
So why are we conceding the town forest to the Mountain Bike Association?
I think it's more that it just doesn't, it just, the terrain isn't good for the disc golf.
Well, he was talking about the trails, and all the trails are mountain bike trails that were cut in by the Mountain Bike Association. They weren't there previously.
Well, I think
So we-
that,
So basically what we're doing is we're giving the town forest to the Mountain Bike Association. That's an out of town association. Okay? And we're just saying, here, it's the town forest. It's all yours. You do whatever you want with it. And we're looking elsewhere. Because
I
they
don't know, I
cut
mean,
trails. They cut a trail network in there that if you look at the map on it, that it's very extensive as to what they did. And what really puzzles me is the town forest committee told Ellen that there's no cutting allowed in the town forest.
Mm-hmm.
So if you bring up the map for the town forest so that the committee can take a look at it and see what I'm talking about, it'd be I think it'd be beneficial. It's on the website. It's on the town website.
So could you say that again, Barry?
here, I'm
If
trying
you
to
could
find,
bring up the
hang on.
town forest map for the committee to look at so they understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can do
It's
that.
on, it's on the website. And you look at the trails that they cut in there. Okay, look at the blue trails, the yellow trails, the white trails that they cut in there. That's why the disc golf course wouldn't work, because they're trying to circumvent these trails. And these trails are for the purpose of the Mountain Bike Association.
I don't know how long those trails have been in there, but it's
They
more
weren't there
trail.
before.
Mm-hmm.
But then why,
not
I mean, we
there
have
before.
these other, so what is the intended use of these other two properties that we would not, I mean, I mean, I get the point that we don't, we want to have equal opportunity, but
Well,
paddock is totally
When
empty.
when you look at the activities that were looked at for this survey, the only activities that were looked at were hiking and biking. Nothing else goes on in these properties other than hiking and biking. A lot of hunting goes on these properties. That wasn't
Let's
discussed.
see.
That wasn't even mentioned. I wasn't at
About-
the December meeting, unfortunately, otherwise I would have brought it up. So once
then-
again,
and
the hunters take the back seat. We already had this discussion for the Trail Riders Association up there on Inman Hill on bedding areas and brownfields and tending areas and, you know,
Well, I think we should ask, that's a good point. We should ask this gentleman to, take that into account as well.
Take into
I
account.
don't understand
hunting uses of the
why
property.
just these two activities were listed on this, for them to look at for the survey. I don't get it. I mean, I've been talking about this since this came out day one. About the hunting.
I mean, a hunting is allowed on, all the properties and, for hikers, you have to wear orange during hunting season. So, I mean, I think for the disc golf, it would be the same thing that,
Disc golf would totally disrupt archery hunting and tree stands and placements and all that. We already had this discussion. It's not just gun hunting. Mountain bikers disrupt archery hunting.
well, I mean, I think the idea of the disc golf is that it gives another option for people to get outside and have an activity.
I don't have
And
a
so
problem
that-
with disc golf. I just have a problem with the locations.
So
We
what
already
do you
gave
think?
up the town, we already gave up the town forest to the mountain bikers, and now we're giving them carte blanche in there.
So Barry, what is
So
your
nobody in
idea?
nobody in the town of Mendon is gonna use the town forest because the mountain bikers have their trails in there. For other purposes other than hiking and biking. I
And
don't get it.
so Barry, so what would be the best location then for you in terms of the disc golf and hunting?
I would say paddock, but paddock gets hunted too.
Hmm.
You know, I'm just making the point of what took place with the town forest. I think it's a shame
Mhm.
that an outside organization came in and offered to cut trails on the town forest, and they took over the town forest, and now the town forest is totally for mountain bikes and their association.
Mhm.
And I said it when they came into town, that this was gonna happen.
Well, on the other properties, we've been very careful about not cutting a lot of trails. But I agree with you, the town forest has a lot of trails. In terms of the disc golf, what do you think the next step should be?
Well, if you're gonna put it on Paddock, I guess that's the place to investigate, but I'd appreciate if you stay off of him and help.
Okay,
I mean, just with the amount of bike riding that goes on up there now and the horse trail riders, it's
Yeah.
disturbing whole environment.
I mean, it looks like the paddock is the best property. Ellen can come to the next meeting. Should we ask her for more details then? And
I think that's a good idea, and then maybe try and follow up and get a better understanding of, do we need to limit this future expansion area? That may be a concern.
I don't have a problem with the future
Um,
expansion area. She wanted an 18-hole golf course. I mean, if they can work it in there, they might as well.
Tisha,
Yeah, I have a question. Did the town people at some point express a strong interest for disc golf?
there's some people that are interested in it, and so it was an activity that Ellen Agro brought to this committee, as another activity that people could use to get outside. There are people that like to do it.
Right, but did the town ever vote yet, like, yes, we want to pursue this?
Oh, this,
think
this committee moves it forward, it'll go to the town meeting, and
Oh, I
then,
see.
yeah.
I think
Okay.
that's what we're doing now, is
Yeah.
deciding. I mean, I think there's probably 100 of these different potential activities that have been thrown out
Mhm.
as, something to look into and see if it's feasible.
Okay, well then, I think what I'll do is I'll ask Ellen to come to the next meeting with specific details then, and then we can make a decision. Does that sound good?
Yeah, is her expectation to take this to town meeting in May?
That's her hope, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we just, if we move forward, we need to make sure all the questions are answered in terms of number of people,
Mhm.
potential impacts.
All right,
Chief elect-
the next item is just a quick update on the records room. Kathy or Dan, you just want to let us know where that's at, the renovation?
So, yeah, the project has gone out to bid as far as I know. I should probably check in with David and see if there's been any news. We're gonna cut it close, let's just say that, but I think we finally got all the work, got the state to approve the paperwork. We actually partnered with the architect that's been working on the senior project to help the current architect get all the paperwork. They were very particular about how the RFP needed to be done. So the goal is to get out to bid, get something awarded, and they've got to be done by July 1st.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be fairly limited. So I don't know how much it's come back to this committee. This is going to be fixing the drainage issues, stabilizing the building. Unfortunately, I know there's a lot of talk about an ADA bathroom and a ramp. The grant won't pay for any of that because it's new. So that was all basically cut out. But all of that groundwork is there now. So in the future, phase 2 can come back to do those next steps, but at least the building will still be there when we go to do them.
And my understanding is this was just purely preservation of existing.
Right.
There were discussion of the bathroom, but I didn't think we were going ahead with that. I thought this was just save the building and then we'd figure out where to take it from there.
Right. I know it a while ago it was discussed, and I know we were talking about all the parts. I don't remember if we brought that back. Yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully I'll check with David and see if he's got any responses yet.
An update on the paddock 7375. I think that they're close to having the purchase and sale complete. I think they're waiting to have the paddocks remove the old cars and then get the septic system up to Title V. So it's, just waiting on that.
I don't understand that. Why is it not just an as sale, like as is sale with in terms of the septic? We're gonna have to do a new septic anyway if we do something there.
Well, I said, why don't they just reduce the price? And so possibly that is what's happening, but I haven't heard back from Karis, so.
Because I haven't talked to them, but I thought we got a grant, or we're applying for a grant to hopefully do like the design work on whatever housing project.
Yes, yep.
Um,
Yeah, there's a mass housing grant. It's a technical assistance grant, and so we're waiting to hear on that. It sounds really positive, so they could give us an idea of what would be possible there on the paddock property. But, so, I mean, we'll let you know what the status is next month. Just kind of waiting. Then on the field lighting, Dan did get the $100,000 grant, which is fantastic. That's great.
Yeah, we were awarded the grant. So now the next steps is going to be to write out the RFP and basically go out to bid. In this case, the work can't start until July 1st. So this project probably won't start until the fall.
Is that a matching grant or is that?
Yes, we,
No, it's a reimbursement. It's complicated. It's a reimbursement grant. I want to say it's like 60%, but we're getting 100,000 from the state, and we're going to spend, I forget how much, 120 maybe.
Thinking
Yeah.
about the capital stuff we're doing, capital plan.
Mm.
I think both records room and field lighting should be considered those projects that are in progress. We should kind of add to the.
Yeah, I mean, at the time I didn't submit any of that stuff because it was ongoing, and I figured it wasn't relevant to.
Yeah, I feel we'll add to it as we go, but we should pick those two up.
I do want to mention, I mentioned this to you, Ann, I think Parks may come back for additional lighting projects with the basketball court lights.
for the annual town meeting.
Yeah, because I
So-
think what we've learned, so that the lights that are there, the wood poles have rotted, was hoping to find somebody to just replace the poles. Turns out it's not working. The more we think about it, we're already going to be there doing this work. It may be worth just putting up a few extra metal poles.
So by the next meeting, can you come up with a price estimate?
Yeah,
that
I'll
you could
try
bring?
and close that out. We gotta
Okay.
get this together.
Sounds like an FY25 request too.
Put it on the chart.
That's right.
So lights, and that's on the basketball court, right?
This would be the lighting on the basketball court and tennis courts. There's 4 poles on each. The wiring was all redone thanks to BVT. We had plans to replace the fixtures, but now the poles we're realizing are from the 80s and are in poor condition. And
Okay.
instead of just putting more wood poles in the ground, we might as well do it right and do proper footings and steel and concrete.
All right. Well, bring back something for the next
Yeah.
meeting. Just to comment also, Metacom Land Trust did get the grant for the Vandersloot property also, which is $275,000. So that was, or 175,000. So the next item is warrant articles for the annual town meeting. So we know there might be the senior center items, there might be basketball lights, there might be disc golf. The other things that we have is the debt for the police station, dividing up the money into the 10%, 65%. And then also paying the other half of the affordable housing director fee. We got a grant so that it was free this year, but we decided we were going to kind of pay for half of it this year and half next year. So that's what I have for the annual town meeting. And then there's also something in the executive session, which we'll talk about later. But is there anything else that people have that might come up?
I do have, I don't think it's an article for this May at all, but I do know at some point I would expect the library to want to have a conversation with this committee about the future of the rectory and seeing if any of that is eligible for some level of historic funds.
Okay.
I don't think that's happening this May. That may be several years out, but That's probably next.
Is anyone else have an item that they think we might be voting on next meeting? Probably next meeting, we'll do all the voting for the annual town meeting warrant article.
Just thinking if there's anything historic or is the executive session related to recreation potential? I think we talked about future recreation, looking at properties similar to what we did with disc
Yeah.
golf and engineering. Again, maybe not for May, but
I mean, one thing that we're looking at, or the select board is looking at, is on the Trask party and how to work around the figure out settling the life estate, because that would be a really good property for sports fields. It's by Misco. And
right.
the location's ideal. It's got open fields. And the town owns it. It was given to the town. So we just need to figure out details with that. But I don't know. So possibly something might be on the annual town meeting for that, but we'll know next month.
Thought about uses though.
Hmm?
You think for uses next month or just figuring how to move forward on it?
Possibly how to move forward, but it might require something on the annual town meeting. I'm not sure. The other item I had was there's Phragmites, which is an invasive plant in Meadowbrook Woods. And I don't think it'll cost that much, but it needs to be removed. And it's a small patch because we found it early. So that might be an item that's on. Well, and actually, there's one more item that might be on there is the RFP for 52 Providence Street for affordable housing. That might be on there. That would be affordable housing funds though. And so it'll be limited to that part of the CPA. But we'll have more specifics at the next meeting.
There anything we need to do with the property off Milford Street with the storage center? Or is that a future? Are they just giving us land for now?
Yeah, I'm not sure the land has been transferred yet, but Kara said that the town already accepted that donation. So that's in the process. Yeah.
Do we still have the money set aside to do like plantings over there, or did we undo that?
We do. Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
so maybe that can be tied into that project then.
Yep. All right. Anything else right now? I think then we're going to go into executive session. And what's the proper way to go into
Are
executive?
we reconvening not to adjourn?
We're
Are
what?
are we gonna reconvene not to adjourn, or are we gonna come back to open session?
We'll come back just to adjourn the meeting.
All right, so we can stop the recording and we don't need to record that adjourn vote
Okay.
for my own sanity of,
We don't?
no, as long as all we're gonna do is come back. If we were coming back to then vote on something, we would want to
Okay.
do a new recording.
Okay.
I don't even think you need to come back to adjourn sometime,
Really? You mean you could adjourn in the executive session like?
I think if you were to announce you're gonna,
I don't know, yeah, the select board always votes will reconvene only to adjourn. That's all I know.
I think
Yeah.
Karis weighed in and said, you don't actually have to do that. We're like, oh,
Interesting.
so we'll confirm that's the true statement and then we can.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Phil.
See you.
Tisha,
All remote.
since we're going to executive session, you'll have to get off the call.
Oh. That was,
Go take it.
Okay,
And then-
bye-bye. Huh?
Go take it first.
are you gonna stop the recording? Well, we gotta make a vote first.
Okay,
Don't do that.
so, would someone did you want to make the motion, Dan?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose to consider the purchase, exchange, lease of value of property if the chair declares an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on negotiating position.
Would someone like to second that?
Second,
Okay, and then a roll call vote. Dan,
Aye.
Mike,
Goddard, aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Mike Mendelia,
Amendalia, aye.
Kathy,
Hi.
and Ann, aye. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.